everyone. My name is Ryan Cam, and welcome back to my road to Wolfman with the Lee Winnell directed Wolfman film coming to theaters this weekend. I am covering every Universal Wolfman film in honor of the film. I've already covered everything up to House of Dracula, which the canon's very messy, I know, but I promise, it's acknowledged as a Wolfman film, but it's intensely complicated. Playlist link in the eye in the right-hand corner. Go check that out for yourself. But now let's close out the series by taking a look at the only other Universal film that is explicitly called The Wolfman. The Wolfman. This was released in 2010. It was directed by Joe Johnston, who would later go on, or who had directed The Rocketeer, and would go on to direct Captain America: The First Avenger. And to join me in closing out this series, I had to get somebody named Wolfman to review a Wolfman movie with me. So from his channel, it is Michael Wolfman Wyndham. Michael, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm a Wolfman here, and I have not seen this movie for a long, long time. So I rewatched it today, and it'll be interesting to see how it holds up after 16 years later. So, yeah, an interesting one for sure.
I got to make a mental note to myself to bring you on for a horror review that's not like wolf related, but sometimes you just have to go with like something this
Oh,
obvious. Like you gotta like invite Wolfman on for. You just have to.
oh yeah, no, absolutely. Like when I review the new Wolfman movie, I want to do like Wolfman reviews. Wolfman, like it's the thing where you have to just do that kind of.
But like I said, this movie was released in 2010, starred Benicio del Toro, Anthony Hopkins, Emily Blunt, among others. And this is pretty much a remake of the 1941 Wolfman film, ignoring all previous Universal monster shenanigans and basically remaking the original screenplay from Kurt Siodmak. Lawrence Talbot, played by Benicio del Toro, returns to the House Talbot after many years of estrangement, and he is attacked by a werewolf and becomes a werewolf. However, the werewolf this time around has a pretty personal connection, not just to the Talbot name, but to Lawrence himself, which we will get to that. But like you were saying, Wolfman, you hadn't seen this movie in about a good amount of years. I had not seen this movie, period. So what did you think of it?
Yeah, when I very first watched this movie, I was very young. I was like in my teens or preteens. And I remember going to the theater. And first off, I think my dad took me. And like looking back at this movie, I was like, first off, maybe I shouldn't have gone to this at that young of an age. Cause like, holy shit, this movie was way gorier than I remembered. Like, way more gory. Holy shit. Like, it was like really, really violent. Um, and so yeah, I remember going to it, and at the time I was kind of bored and didn't like it. I wasn't into it. Then 16 years later, today, I decided, I'm snowed in, so why not? I'll watch it just to refresh my memory on things before I do the review. And I thought this time around, it's it's solid. It's decent. It's not like anything to write home about. It's almost incomparable quality wise, but because they're titled the same movie, you have to compare them. It's obviously not on the level of like the original Wolfman movie, but it still it holds it can hold its own as its like own little separate entity. That's a solid fun time with solid performances, great kills, and great effects for the most part, with some wonky CGI, but overall, still a solid time.
I pretty much agree with you there. It's nowhere near as good as the original, but the original is like top class for like monster films or like films of that particular nature. For Universal doing a Wolfman film for the first time in just about 60 years at the time of the film's release, they pretty much did as best as one could expect. It's not perfect, and it's not like there were Wolfman movies just completely went away. Like the Wolfman was there, like Monster Squad and Ginger Snaps and a bunch of like other standalone ones, An American Werewolf in London. I could go on, but for a remake, it was way better than I was expecting. And I think my biggest compliment that I can give is that the movie looks great for the most part. It feels lived in. Like you go into the Talbot estate and you just go, yeah, this place has seen some decay. Like it's used to be like a grand house, but now it's like not really that anymore. And I love the spirit of that. I love the asylum that we end up seeing, which I won't go too deep into spoilers on that one, but let's just say it plays a pretty big role in what happens to Lawrence, and I'll just leave it at that. But the movie feels lived in. It's directed by Joe Johnston, and he's always had an eye for making you feel like you're in the time period that you're in. See also Rocketeer and Captain America: The First Avenger. Like he really sucks you into the time period.
Oh yeah, he's great at doing these like period piece films because those are technically period pieces. Rocketeer and uh, Captain America: The First Avenger, but they're different kinds of period pieces. But they technically are, and yeah, he really knows how to craft atmosphere and such. Because I felt like while I was watching this again, I really felt like not only was I in the universe, but like in the world that he created here, but also just I felt entranced by it and overall just like I was on a journey with these characters and like you said, very lived in and and it has a pace that's like slow but never boring. You know, this movie could have been boring because you only see the wolf like maybe three times total. I want to say, like, as far as like him in action and everything, you maybe get to see him three times. So you don't get to see him that much. And for a movie like that, where it's titled The Wolfman, and it's a nearly 2 hour long movie, and you only get to see the wolf three times, for a lot of people that would come across as boring. For this, I feel like he makes it work because of the atmosphere and kind of the pace of it and how he makes it flow and move. So
I agree with you 100%. And I really did enjoy Benicio del Toro here. He made it different. Like with remakes, the thing that I always have trouble with is my thing is that you either need to make it better or make it different. And he took the different route, and that I appreciated. And kind of leaning into the fear that Lawrence Talbot has with the Wolfman curse, the lycanthropy, if you will. So I think he conveyed the fear of what he's going through pretty well.
oh yeah. Yeah, no, he definitely did. And one thing that is always important with like werewolf movies is to get the message across of like, okay, what are the rules set within your universe? And I felt like they did that really well, but also a how is the design gonna look like? What's the transformation gonna be like? All that. And I just felt like, you know, part of the fear is the transformation, just seeing how like the hands move and just the way that it looks so painful to become a werewolf. And I felt like this captured that very well. Like I thought the transformation sequences were awesome. And I thought, yeah, Benicio del Toro's performance is very subtle, but really well done. And he does a great American accent in this too. I thought so. Yeah.
Something that I thought was pretty interesting is that in the original, it's kind of a secret that the Talbots like are like related to wolves in a pretty unique way. Here, it's pretty much out in the open, and everyone in this town absolutely hates them for it. There's a great scene where Lawrence is back home and just the priest and these townspeople go and they're like, yeah, we just want your son. Like, we just want to take him out. And Anthony Hopkins' character is like, yeah, you're not doing anything of the sort. And that's a great little standoff there. So, like I said, leaning into what I was talking about with the film feels lived in, this village kind of feels like a village in the Frankenstein universe, where it's like these like at best these people are like these people, and at worst they're like we want these people out of here. So that is a different dynamic, and that difference is something I also appreciated.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I thought that was really different. I love that scene too, where he's like, "Oh, sorry, General, I meant to hit you. I am a bad shot in my. I can't say I've lost. I'm not as good of a marksman as I used to be, or like that. That was really funny. And I thought Anthony Hopkins overall. I mean, he's of course he's going to be great. He's Anthony Hopkins, but I thought he was really good in this movie, and his performance was interesting. I will say the what they reveal is sort of like the twist with him. Just not necessarily to spoil it, but what they reveal is sort of like the twist with his character. I felt was very predictable because I kind of guessed it literally within the first few frames that he was on screen. But I thought that he still was a really good performance in here.
I don't want to go too deep into that, but I'm not sure if I'm a fan of that decision, what they do with Hopkinson's character, because one of the things that I loved about the original was that father and son kind of have an understanding and they try to work together as best they can. Like one of my favorite scenes in the original is when Lawrence is tied to the chair and he's like, "Dad, can you shut the door?" And I'm like, that whole scene there is just, it's really subtle, but it also conveys a lot of like Lawrence is really scared. He doesn't know what's going to happen, but he wants his dad to help, but his dad just doesn't really know what to do. Here, they do something with him that I'm not sure if I like. I don't hate, but I just don't really like the direction, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I thought it was the idea of it wasn't bad. I think it was the execution and how they went about it that was not good. And it made it and it just felt very on the nose and a little cheesy, if that makes sense. Like with a movie that's very uh dark and grim throughout, it felt kind of ridiculous and a little over the top. I don't know. I with just the way that they presented it.
And I talked about earlier, I love the look of the asylum, but there is a montage of Lawrence going through some air quotes treatment. And I thought this kind of looked like a Halloween Horror Nights promo. Like, I don't think I'm like too far out about it. I'm not sure if I hate it, but just the editing and the speeding up. I was half expecting it to be like Coca-Cola presents Halloween Horror Nights or something to that effect.
Yeah, the whole thing kind of feels almost a little. I can see what you mean by that. Like the asylum, it feels a little bit like that, but also there's just some. I like the way his design is. Like it looks cool, but the way it like I don't know with the way the like painted on nose, like you can see that it's still painted. The way that the whole Wolfman looks overall looks like someone dressed up for for Halloween Horror Nights and decided to like that's his Wolfman cosplay for Halloween Horror Nights and everything. Like it just that's what it kind of gave me as far as that vibe goes. Um,
It doesn't help things either that the main doctor is like, as you will see this, as you will see, this is a delusion. And I'm just like, come on, just get to the like, just get to the business. Let's go. And when we do get
yeah,
there, it's actually quite good. But just the
oh
lead
yeah.
up of just like, this man is having these grand delusions. I'm like, come on, wrap it up, wrap
It's
it
like
up.
a yeah, it's like a 10-minute sequence of this guy just talking, and I'm like, I don't care. Like, can we like there? I get this movie is like an hour and like 42 minutes or hour 45, and you could have easily. I felt like you could have trimmed it down to like an hour 35-minute movie, something like that, to where you can cut out a little bit of that like doctor being pretentious and then just leave that scene shortened and then leave the transformation to be longer, you know?
And I think it would have been a good idea if, like, on paper, if they explore the is he actually a wolf man or is he like just thinking about it in his head? I'm not killing that idea necessarily, But it's
Yeah.
very well established in the very first scene in the movie that werewolves do in fact exist, and they're not playing around and they're out for blood. So, like, the idea is kind of dead on arrival when the literal first scene in the movie, you see a wolf man slicing a dude's throat. So, kind of kills it stone dead right there.
Yeah. And then does that, eats the organs of people completely, just demolishes them completely. And yeah, this one definitely makes the whole werewolf uh idea, if you will, it makes it a lot more brutal and visceral. Most definitely.
I did look it up beforehand. The Lee Winnell Wolfman is actually rated R. They just rated it as R. And I'm like,
That's good.
that's a pretty good decision because another
Oh yeah.
point I wanted to bring up was that this is definitely rated R and it definitely shows. There are a few scenes that I
Oh,
just like, this is absolutely brutal. There is a scene near the very end where let's just say we see a head, and that's where I'm gonna leave it, but it looks
yeah.
very bad. Like pretty
Very
bad.
fake. Yeah.
Exactly.
I feel like that's the issue with like the CGI. There's a lot of CGI in this movie that doesn't work. Um, for example, the bear that's in this movie at one point, it looks like a CG bear. Like I was
Yeah.
like, okay, that doesn't look like a real bear to me. And there's a few other CG moments, like when he's in the room and he's doing the whole transformation and everything, like the way the face looks and everything, like the transformations being CG was like sometimes wasn't the best decisions, but like with the actual makeup, it was okay. But like even with the makeup, you could tell uh like certain characters, you could tell who they were under the makeup, and it's like, oh, okay, I can see that person under there. It's like it's not trying to hide and look like someone else entirely. So
Yeah. What did you think of Emily Blunt in the movie? Because I struggle to remember like anything that she may or may not have done, and that's not to slight Emily Blunt. She's very good at what she does. But here, I like she's like his brother, Lawrence's brother's widow. Like I don't know.
right.
Like I struggle to find anything meaningful with her.
Yeah, that's what I got the idea of because when he mentions that Ben, his brother, was dead, it's she's super emotional about it, and you can see it on her face and everything. But Emily Blunt, she gives a really good performance. Like I thought the ending there when she is like crying over the final confrontation, I thought that was like really good acting on her part. But her character was just extremely forgettable. I felt like it was the character on screen that just wasn't that well written. And Emily Blunt, I guess she has an issue with that because she was very good performance wise in Oppenheimer, but she had the same kind of deal where she was playing a forgettable kind of written character, and it's the same with Wolfman. I just at the end of the day, when I think about this movie again tomorrow, I'm probably not even going to remember Emily Blunt was in it. I'm going to be like, oh yeah, Benicio del Toro's in there, Anthony Hopkins, and Hugo Weaving. But oh yeah, I totally forgot that Emily Blunt was in there. Yeah,
Yeah, Miss Blunt patiently waiting for Edge of Tomorrow and A Quiet Place to come around.
exactly. Yeah, because Edge of Tomorrow is only about 4 years after this movie, so
Yeah,
um, that was her big breakthrough, I guess you can say. But another person in here.
she was also in Devil Wears Prada, but she was more supporting.
Oh yeah, she was, but she was still really good in that. But another person in here was the fantastic Hugo Weaving. What did you think of him in this? From
I
yeah,
love Hugo Weaving. I think he's great
oh
in
yeah,
everything. I struggle to remember like most of anything that he was doing. Like
yeah.
not as nearly as bad as Emily Blunt, but I'm like, oh yeah, he's in this. Like I plumb forgot. Like I plumb forgot he was in this.
Yeah, same. And it's one of those things where I would see him on screen doing stuff trying to chase the werewolf down, and then all of a sudden he would be away off screen for a good amount of time. Then he'd come back in there, and I'm like, oh yeah, Hugo Weaving's in here. Shoot, totally forgot. Yeah, his character again, good performance. I thought what he did acting wise was solid. I just think that he overall was a forgettable character, and I'm not going to really remember him at the end of the day. And I think that he like all his character's purpose was just to be almost like a Van Helsing type of character and be like, let me chase after the werewolf and try to kill the werewolf, and that was like him essentially the whole time he was on screen.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I think that's a good place to put the period at the end of the sentence here. All told, I think that this is a very admirable attempt at a remake. Not as good as the original, but still, when it is on, I do appreciate some of the choices they made. I'm going to give this a good rating, but a high good rating. Like I said, nowhere near as good as the original, but it could have been a whole lot worse. Joe Johnston, I think, did a pretty admirable job. Initially, this was supposed to be directed by Michel Gondry, or no, wait, Mark Romanek, excuse me. He directed One Hour Photo.
Yeah.
So I don't know how he would have done it, but I think Joe Johnston did a solid job. And I think I can describe this movie best as solid.
Yeah, I would have actually been very interested in seeing what the 1 hour photo director did, knowing how disturbing that movie is, and I feel like he would have done because Joe Johnston wasn't really known for horror, but at least that director has a horror movie under his belt. But yeah, overall this one is solid. It's an okay, decent little remake. It's harmless. It's not like anything that's completely disrespects the original or is it's not like a terrible movie by any means or anything like that. It's just at the end of the day, one that am I really going to remember it years from now? Probably not. Until I like come back and revisit it, maybe once several more years have passed and realize, oh yeah, this all these people are in here and all that is happening again. But like I'll totally forget about it until I revisit it one day. Like it's that kind of movie. It's not bad, just forgettable.
I agree. But I pass it off to all of you. What did you think of this movie? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to read what you have to say. Wolfman, thank you so much for joining me. Like I said, I've made a note to bring you on to the channel for something non-Wolfman related, and we'll definitely make that happen. But your channel's linked below. Tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, you guys can find me on the channel Mega Movies, where I will be doing a bunch of my end of the year recap kind of stuff throughout January, and then giving you guys an actual review of Wolfman when that comes out. So you guys can stay tuned for that. I do a lot of horror stuff on the channel, so if you are big into horror, then definitely go check out the channel. And I'm definitely going to plan to bring you onto the channel again because you were on for the Friday 13th ranking. And I want to get you back on soon. But you guys can check out our Friday 13th ranking that we did. And that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was a great time. But I'll post the link to that or not retrospective, that ranking video in the description as well, so you can go check me out over there. But go give him a subscribe. And as far as this channel goes, I want to thank all of you for checking out the Wolfman reviews. And then I will have a review up for the Wolfman, the Lee Winnell version, when I do see it. And I'm looking forward to that. But for the Wolfman, my name is Ryan Cam. We will see you all in the next one. You all take care.